For 85% of your students, clear expectations and consistent consequences is going to work. But those other 15%, 10 to 15%, you're going to have to do something a little bit more. But it's okay because our vision is for 100% of students. So because we have a vision for 100% of students, we're not going to ignore the needs of these that are a little bit harder to reach. So here's what I want to say for those students, and I'm sure that you can think about the students that I'm naming, the students that you give them a warning, you give them a silent lunch, you give them a detention, and they just do not care. Like, it's just not working. They're still going to come in and be who they are. The one thing you want to do is keep the expectations the same, but maybe the consequences or the activities of the consequences are different. The reason why you want them to be the same is because you want everybody to understand that the expectation for everybody in this class is the same. They can see the same things that you can see. They can see when there's a student that's consistently out of line. There's a student that's always causing trouble, a student that's always doing that. But you don't want to feel as if you're just allowing them to get away with it because they're different, that their disruptions are excused because they have something different about them. No. State that the expectation is the same. Sometimes you just have to be a little bit different with what those consequences are. But the other students in the class need to know that they're being held to the same expectation. So still address it and name aloud the consequence just like you would for everybody else. The other students need to see that, again, the behavior is not being excused. So if you know silent lunch doesn't work for this person at all because you try to give them silent lunch and they just keep talking anyway, maybe even though they got to the second consequence, which would be a silent lunch, you don't give them a silent lunch. Maybe you give them, or you say, or you'll meet with me after school and we'll go through the work that you missed or something of that nature. The other students need to hear that because the other students who silent lunch probably works for, the other students are like, oh man, I don't want to stay after school. And honestly, they may not even know if the other person stays after school, but they need to hear that there's not just a non-consequence. If it's not something that you can't follow through on, give them something else. Even if it's like, okay, well, I'm definitely calling your parent. And he might be like, I don't care. All the other students in the class need to hear, oh, Mr. Williams is calling that parent. So let me not do that behavior because I don't mess with my parents, you know? So whatever it is, still state the consequence because the rest of the class and other people need to know that there is a consequence. Even if you in the back of your mind know, like, dang, this really might not be effective for this student, the rest of the class still needs to hear that something is going to happen. I would also say, still try to find those things that do work. If they like technology, maybe you do all their work on paper, whatever it is. Try to find those things that will kind of be that consequence for them. And remember, consequences don't need to be punitive. We're trying to help students to grow and learn. We're trying to teach them. So it doesn't have to be something that's going to make them cry. It's just going to have to be something that's consistent and that's going to make them realize that I need to rise to the level of the expectation. The other thing you want to do, hey, for a deeper dive of some of the topics covered in this video, get your copy of 99% Human, 1% Amazing, linked in the description below. The other thing you want to do is make sure that you connect with this student's grown-ups. Even if it's hard, it's tough, like I don't like talking to her on the phone, she talks forever, or she just always excuses her child's behavior, send her an email, send her a message, a quick check-in. Or even if you don't feel as if that parent is supportive or they're too busy or they're not going to care, they should still be aware of the things that their child is doing and the things that is happening with their child, because maybe there is a deeper issue. Maybe they do need to be evaluated for ADHD or something of that nature. If we just get tired of talking to the parents because we're saying they're not going to do anything about it anyway, they may think that their child is going to school every day and it's all fine. Then that's how we end up with students with undiagnosed autism in middle and high school and undiagnosed ADHD heading into college because parents nobody ever told the parent, or they just were oblivious to the fact that things were going on, or they were ignorant to the fact that it was going on, right? But whatever it is, I feel like it's our duty to just keep them abreast and aware, even if it's at every day, like, yeah, another rough day today, or yeah, couldn't focus in class today. Whatever it is, let the parent be aware. It's their child, the grown up. Let them be aware. They have guardianship over this child. Just make sure that they are in the loop. Again, even if you don't think that it's going to make a difference in their behavior, even still, you're still planting the seeds, because just because things don't happen immediately doesn't mean it won't happen eventually, right? So to be honest, it may not get better till they're out of your class, but our goal is to affect students' lives. And whether that happens this week, this year, this month, we just want it to happen, period. So make sure that you're planting the seeds and keeping families aware. When you're speaking to the student, tell them what they are in a positive way, not what they're not. So with these particular types of students, they hear that they're bad all the time, right? They hear that they can't all the time. They hear that they're failure. They hear these types of things all the time. I like to stay away from saying things like, oh, you're not bad. You just made some bad choices. Because they're still hearing bad, right? What I do like to say instead is, you're human. You make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. That just makes you human. But now starts the growth process. Now starts the learning process, whatever it is. So you don't have to reiterate some of the things that they're always saying. You're not a loser. No, you don't need to say things like that, but just tell them what they are. A lot of students that I'll say things like, you're extremely charismatic. Like, you can influence almost anybody to do anything. Let's just work on getting you a platform that's worth following, right? Something like that. Not saying like, man, you just always in some stuff. You're just always in some mess, right? But yeah, you're extremely charismatic. So make sure you tell them what they are in a positive way, and not sadistic, and not like, sarcastically, but really, they really do have charisma. They really can lead people. They're just leading them in the wrong direction. So let me help you create a platform that's worth following. Here's a big one. Allow them to find their person, even if it's not you. Everybody should have a person in the building that they can tell the truth to when the question is asked, how are you? That was a quote by somebody. I forgot who it was. But if somebody asks, how you doing? How are you? A lot of people are going to say good. But everybody should have that person in the school building that they can honestly say, it's not a good day for me. And if that is not you for that student, let them find the person who it is. I am the assistant principal at my school, and I know I'm not everybody's cup of tea. Sometimes I'll talk to a student that I can see is in distress. I'm like, you want to talk about it? I'm like, no, I'm fine. I'm like, okay, you want to go talk to so-and-so? It's like, yeah. I know that they have a relationship with that teacher. I know that, and it's okay. I'm going to work on building a relationship with that student, of course. But right here, right now, in this moment, they need something, and I'm not the person that can give it to them. And I'm not going to be hurt by that. I'm not going to be affected by that. I'm just going to try to find who is going to be this person that's going to help them get through this situation. That's my goal. That's my job. So connect them with the people, or allow them to connect with people. If they're in your class and they have a better relationship with the teacher next door, maybe at some point it's like, okay, go talk to Mrs. Williams. All right. And it's okay. Let them find their person. You may not always be that person for somebody. True fact. You're not everybody's cup of tea. And that's okay. But let them find who their person is in the building, even if it isn't you. Another thing you want to do is help them to see success. A lot of times we see a lot of behavior issues because it's stemming from academics. Either they're really high and they're bored, or they're really low and they're just lost and over it. Either way, have them see success. If they're really high, challenge them. Allow them to do something that is going to challenge them, and let them see success in that thing. If they're really low, which is more common, give them some things that they can see success over. I can think of time and time again how many students I had. I would celebrate students for writing their name on the paper. I had this one student, I remember the date. It was like, well, I don't remember the date. It was March though. I do remember it was in March. First time he ever wrote his name on a paper. Like, he wrote anything on the paper was in March. And I said, wow, I've never known what your handwriting looks like. Thank you for writing your name on the paper today. He just looked up to me and he smiled. He was one of those kids. He just never wanted to do anything. But he didn't just sit there and tune out. He would be loud. He would run around the classroom. He would throw stuff. And he was one that would get to 5 really quickly and then have to be escorted out so the rest of us can learn. But it was March. It was March before it was literally March when he sat down and he wrote his name. And I said, wow, I've never seen your handwriting. But he's not the only one, right? There's some others that they're extreme cases, and allow them to see success. Sometimes you ask them questions that they know the answer to. That's okay. Listen, y'all, come on. It's okay. I know you want to challenge students. I know you want them to grow. I know you want to, I know. But sometimes just allowing them to see success. I remember I called on one student when we were doing the Pythagorean theorem on the board. One student, really low, really behavior issue. I remember in front of the class, I had used a randomizer. His name came up, and I was like, hey, what shape is this? He looked at the board. He was like, a triangle? And I was like, yeah, everybody clap it up. Everybody clapped it up for him. And he just, started smiling and snickering. I'm not saying that it's going to help them perform better on the SAT. I'm saying it's allowing them to see success so they feel as if they can be successful in your room, right? It allows them to put a little bit more work in. It allows them to say, engaged a little bit longer so that you can kind of get them to where you want them to be. And the last thing now, build relationships. We talk about this a lot, which is why I saved it to the end. I'm gonna make it the shortest. Build relationships. People do business with people they know, like, and trust. Students respect teachers who they know, like, and trust. Let them get to know you, let them get to like you, and share your vision with them so that they can trust you and trust that you have their best interest at heart. Remember, your vision is for 100% of students. So if you share this with students, they'll know that you care about me, and that can help them to be able to stay focused long enough to grow as we try to improve our data